1 year into our marriage, a curious realization dawned on me: my husband might be rich. It started with a fleeting resemblance, a face in the financial section of the newspaper, strikingly similar to Gareth's. When I tentatively brought it up, questioning him with a playful nudge, he simply chuckled, a low, rumbling sound that vibrated through me. "Lookalikes are a dime a dozen, Vivian," he'd said, flexing his arm with a wink. "But not everyone is blessed with this." And he gestured, with mock seriousness, to his undeniably impressive 8-pack abs. Speechless, I could only agree. Oh, those abs. They were, and still are, my ultimate weakness. Vivian. Gareth's arms wrapped around my waist, his handsome face buried in the crook of my neck, his warm breath tickling my skin. I heard the low rumble of his laughter and playfully tried to push him away, my hands instinctively landing on that solid, sculpted wall of his abdomen. An electric jolt, familiar and thrilling, shot through my palms. My breath hitched, a flutter in my chest blossoming into a full-blown, Jidong heartthrob/palpitation. Gareth. The word slipped from my lips, soft and yielding, my gaze softening, eyes almost shimmering with unspoken desire. He lifted his head, bracing himself on his arms on either side of me, a playful smirk dancing on his lips. The corners of his eyes crinkled with amusement, a hint of something more smoldering beneath the surface. His lips parted slightly, and he lowered his head, capturing my mouth in a kiss that was both demanding and tender, staking his claim with delicious possessiveness. "Be good, and call me husband," he murmured against my lips. And just like that, I spent the rest of the night obliging, calling him husband in every tone imaginable. The next morning, I nearly overslept for work, jolting awake to find my dear husband still sprawled luxuriously across the bed, lost in the realm of dreams. Honestly, it was a sight to behold, a modern-day Adonis in repose, a feast for the eyes. But duty called, as it always did. Heaven bestows great responsibilities upon me, and therefore, I must first earn money to support my family. This became my silent mantra, my personal mission statement. My best friend, Cheryl, declared me certifiably insane. And perhaps she had a point. Ever since Gareth had waltzed into my life, I'd willingly become a prisoner of love, captivated by his every whim. "You're just like King Zhou of Shang, and that dog Gareth is your Sudaji," Cheryl would rant, comparing us to infamous figures of infatuation and ruin. "He whispers sweet nothings in your ear, and you blindly do whatever he says." Every time we met, she'd affectionately, or not so affectionately, refer to Gareth as Dog Gareth. I tolerated it, because, well, she was Cheryl, my best friend since kindergarten. "Lunch break is almost over," I pointed out, glancing at my watch. "Can we talk about something else, please? You've been on this for almost an hour." Cheryl sighed dramatically, adopting her signature disappointed friend expression. What is Dog Gareth even thinking? Letting a woman go out and grind to earn a living while he lounges around at home? What gives him the right? "I'm happy to," I retorted, shrugging. Water under the bridge, warm or cold, only the drinker knows. Gareth had his own particular charms, his own set of virtues that others just wouldn't understand. Gareth and I, our meeting felt like a stroke of fate, one of those moments that old sayings describe as predestined, divinely arranged, everything unfolding exactly as it should. It happened a year ago, during a company team-building trip to the beautiful Sonia. One evening, I decided to take a solitary stroll along the beach. As I wandered, I noticed a small crowd gathered, their voices raised in animated chatter. At the center of it all was Gareth. In the soft glow of the moonlight, his fair complexion seemed to radiate a gentle luminescence, like polished jade. A touch of awkwardness, tinged with innocence, colored his features. His long, elegant fingers, the kind a pianist might possess, were delicately holding a crab claw, as if it were a precious artifact. He was wearing the epitome of tourist chic, a loud, floral Hawaiian shirt and baggy shorts, yet somehow, on him, it looked effortlessly stylish, almost breathtaking. It was love at first sight, a descent into a swamp of infatuation from which no industrial crane could possibly hoist me. The commotion, it turned out, was due to Gareth's unfortunate realization that he'd gone out for dinner without his wallet. The restaurant owner, understandably misunderstanding, suspected him of dining and dashing. Unbelievable. Someone as aesthetically pleasing as him should be able to eat anything he desired, free of charge. I, ever the impulsive romantic, stepped in and bailed him out, covering his bill. Though, admittedly, it did sting my wallet for a while. He'd ordered the emperor crab feast, after all. Cheryl insisted I was bewitched, under Gareth's spell. Perhaps she was right. But who could blame me? He was simply too beautiful, and I was simply too susceptible to beauty. He promised to repay me, but honestly, the money was the last thing on my mind. I was playing the long game, casting a line to reel in a bigger catch. A future meeting, a reason to see him again, that was the real treasure I was after. Serendipitously, we discovered we lived in the same city. Fate, it seemed, was playing its hand, weaving a tapestry of connection, mysterious and wonderful. Our acquaintance blossomed into friendship, and then something deeper. As we grew closer, I felt the moment was ripe for a more intimate step. But nerves got the better of me, and my tongue, betraying my intentions, twisted my words into something utterly mortifying. "Can we, friends?" Silence hung in the air, thick and heavy, like a poorly timed punchline. We both froze, stunned into awkward immobility. No. Actually, I meant to say, can we be friends? Not, you know. I didn't mean to say that. Oh God, why did I say that? I just meant. Ugh, Vivian, you absolute idiot. Explanation was just making it worse, digging me deeper into a pit of embarrassment. I'd come off as a complete pervert. It was over. Game over. Then, Gareth reached out, gently taking my hand in his. His palm was large and strong, warm and reassuring. He looked at me, his gaze earnest and sincere. "You don't really know me yet, Vivian. The truth is, I know," I interjected, cutting him off. I understood his discomfort. The emperor crab debt still lingered, unpaid. And ever since, every time we went out, I'd been the one reaching for the bill, eager to cover the cost. Poor thing, I thought, my heart aching with sympathy. Fate really is unfair. Blessing him with such perfect beauty, only to curse him with such poverty. "I'll take care of you," I declared, my voice firm, unwavering. I meant it with every fiber of my being, a commitment as solid as gold. From the shock in his widened eyes, I could tell he hadn't expected such a bold proposition. His usually subtle, fox-like eyes, normally a delicate almond shape, rounded into surprised circles, transforming from inner to outer double eyelids in an instant. Maybe he needs time to think it over, I worried. This was a big step, after all. My spirits began to dampen, my heart sinking with a heavy thud. Truthfully, I wasn't exactly wealthy myself. Being with me would mean, food on the table, clothes on his back, basic necessities met. But lavish luxury? That was a distant dream. The next moment, a gentle pressure lifted my chin, and his soft lips met mine. Through the tender press of his mouth, Gareth murmured, a hint of laughter lacing his words, "Deal." Gareth and I, we ignited like a firework, a spark igniting an unstoppable blaze. Once lit, there was no turning back. And the chemistry was undeniable. We were a perfect match, in every sense of the word. Especially in bed. And his 8-pack abs? Don't even get me started. They were lethal, pure and simple. Our days became a blur of shared laughter and stolen kisses. We lived in a state of perpetual honeymoon, every glance a promise, every touch electric. As for the spontaneous trip to the Civil Affairs Bureau, culminating in marriage certificate in hand, I swear, it wasn't my idea. We skipped the grand wedding, opting instead for a celebratory dinner at a cozy little restaurant on the evening of our official union. The initial phase might have been a whirlwind, but the days that followed were smooth sailing, a blissful existence of domestic harmony that made certain individuals green with envy. Like my dearest friend, Cheryl. Are you even listening to me? You're a smart, capable woman, and yet, you're acting like you've lost your mind. Have you really thought this through? You're going to support him for the rest of your life? Cheryl's voice dripped with exasperation, scolding me as much as questioning my sanity. I nodded, a dreamy smile playing on my lips. A lifetime, I echoed. Just the word itself sounded like a promise of eternal happiness. Cheryl waved her hand dismissively, practically shooing me away. Just go. See you later. Gotta dash, chat again soon. I grabbed my bag, blowing her a playful kiss as I turned to leave. Vivian, mark my words, one day he's going to bleed you dry, leave you with nothing but crumbs. Cheryl's blessing followed me out the door. Return to sender, may we both be spared such misfortune, I thought to myself, silently sending her dire prediction back into the universe. I'd been with my company for 4 years, yet my position remained stubbornly lower than some of the newer recruits. The unspoken reasons were clear to everyone. I was tall and slender, fair-skinned and reasonably attractive. When I first joined, I'd enjoyed a brief period of being the office darling, the center of attention. But that chapter closed abruptly with my marriage announcement. People were generally civilized, understanding unspoken boundaries. Most people, anyway. But some people seemed to have a rather flexible definition of boundaries. My direct supervisor, for instance, had made his unwanted interest known on multiple occasions, each time met with my practiced arsenal of polite deflections and feigned obliviousness. But today, his usual tactics seemed to be escalating. Supervisor, I need to get home tonight to have dinner with my husband. I smoothly withdrew my hand from his lingering grasp, pasting on a bright smile to deflect his unwanted invitation. This lecherous old man, he'd cast his predatory eye on every woman in the office, young and old, married or single, it was just a matter of degree. Vivian, darling, what about tomorrow then? Tomorrow? Oh, tomorrow I'm starting a strict diet, no dinner for me, I replied instantly, the practiced excuse rolling off my tongue without hesitation. Mastering the art of deflecting workplace harassment, a modern woman's essential survival skill. The old Lex smile vanished, replaced by a thunderous scowl. He slammed the stack of documents on his desk with unnecessary force. Redo it. I need to see this on my desk before the morning meeting, otherwise, Vivian, forget about your bonus this month. Still smiling, I bent down to retrieve the hefty pile of files from his desk. This was material I'd spent an entire week meticulously compiling. He hadn't even glanced at it before tossing it back, a blatant power play, pure and simple. In my younger, more fiery days, I would have hurled the files back in his face and walked out. But times had changed. There was a husband to support back home. Without a job, we'd both be reduced to eating air and sunshine for sustenance. Ugh, the crushing weight of financial responsibility. After a grueling day, I finally dragged my weary self home as darkness descended. Early spring, especially mornings and evenings, still held the bite of winter. The wind whipped against my face, stinging my cheeks. After battling through over an hour of rush-hour traffic, I finally stumbled through my front door, feeling like I'd aged a decade in a single day. Our apartment wasn't large, a modest 2-bedroom in an older building, barely 60 square meters. But it was cozy, comfortable, home. Wife, you're back. Hurry, wash your hands, change clothes, dinner's ready. Gareth emerged from the kitchen, adorned in a cartoon-printed apron, clad in a discount sportswear set from the mall, and sporting fluffy blue bunny slippers, our matching couple set with my pink pair. He carried steaming dishes, a warm smile illuminating his face. That smile, it was like spring rain after a long drought, turning withered branches back to vibrant life. I sniffled, suddenly realizing that the day's petty workplace grievances were utterly insignificant. A good woman protects her man from even the smallest discomfort. Seeing him in his domestic element, radiating tranquility, I felt a surge of protective resolve. I could handle anything the world threw at me, as long as he was safe and happy. What's wrong? Quickly go wash up, and then tell me how today's Gareth's home cooking tastes. His goofy grin made me chuckle, chasing away the last vestiges of my work-induced gloom. I obediently scurried off to the bathroom to wash my hands. On the dining table lay what Gareth considered home cooking. Are we having Boston lobster tonight? I questioned, my voice laced with disbelief. There was simply no way my meager salary could possibly sustain this level of gourmet indulgence on a regular basis. Yesterday it was abalone, the day before that, ginseng chicken soup, and the day before that. Gareth expertly cracked open the lobster, placing succulent pieces of meat on my plate. Lobster it is, but it's local, domestic lobster. The fishmonger's wife went into labor, needed to rush back, so he was practically giving them away today. Similar stories had become a daily occurrence. Yesterday, the abalone vendor's son was getting married, a joyous occasion warranting a celebratory discount. The day before, he'd helped a farmer catch chickens, and the grateful farmer had gifted him one. These miraculous windfalls seemed to happen to him every single day. How do you manage to stumble upon such amazing deals every single day? I asked, genuinely perplexed, savoring a bite of the lobster. The delicate sweetness melted on my tongue, utterly delicious. Gareth grinned, flashing his pearly white teeth, and slipped a piece of lobster claw meat into my mouth. Can't help it, you know? Handsome face, good character, people just want to shower me with food. I chuckled, nodding in agreement. Hard to argue with that logic. But then, a thought pricked at my mind. So, why didn't you buy more? Gareth's laughter bubbled over, unrestrained. He reached across the table, gently wiping a stray crumb from the corner of my mouth with his thumb. My hard-working wife is the breadwinner, you deserve to eat more. A wave of warmth washed over me, a sweet, melting sensation. I giggled, wholeheartedly enjoying his pampering. The little rascal, he does have a conscience after all. He ensured I was completely satiated, barely touching his own portion. The after-dinner fruit platter was equally extravagant, plump, glistening berries and exotic fruits, each bite bursting with refreshing sweetness, never cloying. Husband, what are these amazing fruits you got me? Gareth settled me comfortably against his lap on the sofa, feeding me slices of the unknown, delectable fruit. No idea, he replied casually. Just picked them up by the side of the road. The piece of fruit in my mouth instantly lost its appeal. Wasn't he worried about them being poisonous? I tried them first, totally safe, I promise. Delicious, right? He'd clearly read my thoughts. Even if they were poisonous, I'd still eat them, I murmured, turning to bury my face against his 8-pack abs. Cheryl was right, Gareth was indeed like Sue Dodgy, the legendary femme fatale, constantly casting spells, keeping me perpetually bewitched. But honestly, I was willingly, happily under his spell. I lapped it up. Utterly, completely smitten. Death by beauty? If so, I'll die a happy ghost. This cozy, blissful little life, if only I could escape the shackles of work and just enjoy it fully. I can't eat anymore, I still have work to do. If I don't finish it tonight, that lecherous old boss at work will make my life a living hell. Reluctantly, I peeled myself off his lap. Ah, the struggles of life. Your supervisor again? Gareth's brow furrowed, his expression instantly darkening. Yep, the one and only. Seeing his face every day makes me want to throw up. Sometimes I really just want to quit, you know? I gently stroked his hair, careful not to reveal the extent of the harassment. He was a man, after all, and I didn't want to bruise his ego by admitting my vulnerability. Gareth suddenly pulled me close, flipping us over so he was hovering above me on the sofa. His eyes, usually playful and teasing, were now locked on mine, burning with intensity, a mixture of anger and something deeper, fiercer. Then quit. I blinked, momentarily stunned, before a soft chuckle escaped my lips. "Oh, you beautiful, impractical creature," I thought fondly. He was like a fairy, untouched by the gritty realities of the human world, oblivious to the mundane necessities of rent, utilities, groceries. "Sweetheart, I need to get some work done, just for an hour, okay? Just 1 hour." I soothed him, my voice gentle, completely used to his dramatic pronouncements. Gareth, however, was not in a placating mood. His lips brushed against my ear, his voice a low, seductive whisper. "You know me, Vivian. 1 hour is never enough. Gareth, please, just give me a little while, okay? Just a little while," I pleaded, my eyes wide and beseeching. "No," he insisted, his kisses becoming more insistent, playful but insistent, like a petulant child. "Husband, please, darling husband." I gasped, feeling myself melt into liquid, utterly incapable of resisting his advances. His kisses were relentless, each one landing precisely where it would unravel my self-control. "I know," he murmured against my lips, his tone smug, knowing. This man, utterly shameless. I blushed crimson, feeling a delightful heat spread through me. This husband of mine, he was perfect in every way, except perhaps for the strain he put on my lower back. The next day at work, a bombshell dropped. The lecherous old supervisor, my personal tormentor, had been fired. Inwardly, I pumped my fist in silent triumph. Yes. I'd been bracing myself for a dressing down, fully expecting to be grilled for not finishing the work I'd brought home, work that had remained untouched, thanks to Gareth's distractions. His 1 hour had stretched into the entire evening, leaving me utterly spent, drifting into sleep before I could even open my laptop. But fate, it seemed, had a sense of humor. In just one night, the tables had turned. The old ogre was out of power. Praise the heavens! First things first, I sent a quick message to my dearest husband, sharing the glorious news. He replied with a selfie, him in the Yundongfu sportswear I'd bought him, jogging energetically downstairs, flashing a playful finger heart directly at the camera. Sunlight streamed behind him, highlighting his youthful energy, his carefree spirit. And this vibrant, handsome man was mine. A wave of intense satisfaction washed over me, a primal urge to work harder, earn more, to keep him pampered and happy, to ensure he remained my beautiful, devoted husband. The newly appointed supervisor was a woman, middle-aged, in her early 40s, and surprisingly approachable. To build rapport, she suggested a team dinner after work. I couldn't politely refuse, but my heart tugged at the thought of leaving Gareth alone. I called him, sent him messages, my mind preoccupied even during the meal. Tonight's treat was a buffet, a decent choice, allowing everyone to pick according to their tastes. But frankly, nothing here compared to Gareth's cooking. The abalone was undersized, the chicken soup lacked depth, and there was even a queue for the lobster. A colleague chatted beside me, but my mind was miles away, with Gareth, barely registering her words. "Vivian, have you heard? There's talk the company might be getting acquired." I shook my head, idly poking at the food on my plate. "Meh, not as good as my husband's cooking." "Seriously, you haven't heard?" "It's all anyone's talking about in our department," my colleague said, her eyes wide with surprise. My lack of awareness seemed to genuinely astound her. "So what if it gets acquired? Will I get laid off? Will I get a raise? Will the new boss be hot?" I asked, rattling off the only questions that seemed relevant. My colleague stared, speechless, shaking her head like a bewildered bobblehead. "Exactly," I said, shrugging. "It's all unknown. No point in getting worked up about hypotheticals." My pragmatic approach seemed to finally shut down the topic. I speared a strawberry, popping it into my mouth. Ugh, bland. Not even close to the ones Gareth buys. Not even as good as those wild berries he picks from who knows where. My colleague leaned in conspiratorially, nudging my shoulder. "Wow, you're something else, Vivian." 3 sentences in, and you've managed to mention your husband every time. Husband obsessed much. Vivian. You've been married for a year, right? We've never even seen your husband. Why don't you call him to join us tonight? We're all curious. She even winked, a knowing look that only fellow married women truly understood. Oh, these office wolves, I thought, amused. They just want to ogle my husband. A few other colleagues nearby overheard and joined in the playful teasing. I smiled, a mischievous glint in my eyes. My phone was overflowing with Gareth's pictures. I selected one, carefully cropped to hide his face. Really want to see? You'll all be even more sleepless tonight if you do. I held up the photo, and a collective gasp rippled through the group. Whoa, great physique. Damn, those legs go on forever. Seriously, he must be at least 6'1". Why can't we see his face? Vivian, showing us half a picture is just cruel and unusual punishment. A few of the bolder, more playful colleagues jokingly tried to snatch my phone, and we dissolved into playful chaos, laughter filling the air. What's all the commotion about? Having fun? The new supervisor, Ms. Ning, approached, a wine glass in hand, joining our little circle. Supervisor Ning, Vivian is being all possessive about her husband, like he's some national treasure. We just saw a picture, and he looks like he walked straight out of a magazine. But she's hiding his face. You're here just in time, Supervisor Ning, maybe you can convince her to reveal her husband's true face. The male colleague who'd initiated the teasing, I remembered he'd once tried to pursue me. I suspected his current enthusiasm was less about genuine curiosity and more about, well, something else. The others chimed in, adding to the playful pressure. Supervisor Ning, about this. Honestly, it wasn't a big deal to show his picture. And with Supervisor Ning asking, it felt harder to refuse. Come on, everyone, let's respect people's privacy, Supervisor Ning said, smiling gently, patting my shoulder in a reassuring way. We're all colleagues here, let's not make things awkward. I breathed a sigh of relief. Supervisor Ning, she was all right, a genuinely good boss. The group chatted for a bit longer, the playful tension easing, before the conversation naturally shifted to other topics. I glanced at my phone. 8:30 p.m. already. Usually, at this time, Gareth and I would be sprawled on the sofa, sharing fruit and watching TV, a cozy domestic scene that now felt achingly distant. I excused myself, asking Supervisor Ning for permission to leave. She was understanding, waving me off without a fuss. Walking home, my steps felt lighter, almost buoyant. Just the thought of seeing Gareth again sent a thrill of anticipation through me. The evening air was sharp, biting. I hailed a cab for the last leg of the journey. Our old apartment complex lacked proper parking, and by evening, the narrow lanes were crammed with cars parked haphazardly, making taxi access impossible. But the cold was piercing, and I wasn't walking the rest of the way. I pleaded with the driver, sweet-talking him, and he reluctantly agreed to drive as far as the complex entrance. As the taxi rounded the corner, I spotted him instantly. Gareth. He was wrapped in a fluffy cotton bathrobe, blue bunny slippers peeking out from beneath the hem, his hands clasped together, rubbing them against the cold. He was pacing back and forth, craning his neck, peering into the street, like a worried little wife awaiting her husband's return. Husband. I flung open the car door and practically leaped out. Hey, pay the fare, the driver called out, leaning out the window, holding up a QR code payment card. I rolled my eyes at him, whipping out my phone to pay. Seriously? Did I look like someone who'd skip out on a fare? If it weren't for the thought of my precious husband freezing in the cold, I'd have given him a piece of my mind. Wife. Gareth spotted me too, his hand outstretched, reaching for me. I dashed towards him, a wide grin splitting my face. Seeing him always made my heart bloom with joy. He opened his bathrobe, enveloping me in a warm embrace. Instant warmth enveloped me, mingled with his clean, fresh scent. The steady rhythm of his strong heartbeat resonated in my ear, and my hand instinctively found its way to the tempting contours of his 8-pack abs. Pure, unadulterated bliss. Didn't I tell you? Company dinner tonight. You shouldn't have waited outside, you'll freeze. I complained playfully, snuggling deeper into his embrace. The weather forecast said it was dropping tonight. You were wearing so little this morning, I was worried you'd be cold on your way back. I let out a soft, breathy husband, my heart swelling with emotion, a lump forming in my throat. The perfect husband. Only Gareth. We hurried back home, the chill of early spring unable to penetrate the warmth of our intertwined love. Back in the apartment, we melted into each other's arms, a familiar dance of affection. Luckily, it was Friday night, no need to worry about early mornings. Cheryl's birthday was this weekend. I packed a gift and headed over to her party, only to discover it was less a birthday celebration and more a thinly disguised matchmaking event orchestrated by her mother. Wow, impressive. All handpicked by your mom, right? Isn't that our high school class president over there? And that one, I heard his family owns mines. I mentally applauded Cheryl's mother. Impressive work, Auntie. Cheryl, decked out in a dress that screamed single and ready to mingle, tugged at the hem of the slightly revealing outfit, giving me a wry smile. Yep, apparently every eligible bachelor within a 100-mile radius is here. Just hoping I don't end up like you, being picky and choosing, only to end up with someone lacking, and still thinking you found true love. You can insult me all you want, but don't you dare talk about my husband, I warned, feigning offense. She couldn't stand Gareth, her words always dripping with skepticism. I'd been hearing it for a year, I was practically immune by now. Vivian, you're still young, you know? A woman's prime years are precious, fleeting. Don't waste them on someone who doesn't deserve it. When you're older, and you see everyone else with houses, cars, savings, and you're still clinging to this love thing? Will that love pay the bills? Dog Gareth might be happy to leech off you now, but he could just as easily move on to someone else tomorrow. And then where will you be? Crying into an empty bank account. Cheryl was on her usual mission, relentlessly trying to dismantle my relationship. You've never even met my husband, how can you judge him like that? Maybe if you actually met him, you'd see him differently. Please, spare me the agony, Cheryl said, rolling her eyes dramatically. Cheryl grabbed my hand, pulling me towards the throng of people. What are you doing? I asked, bewildered. Improving your taste in men, obviously. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find someone actually suitable here. I yanked my hand back, laughing. You're crazy. No, you're crazy. Crazy for being so blinded by Dog Gareth's charms. Completely, utterly hopeless. If we weren't surrounded by people, Cheryl might have actually slapped me. I'm happy being crazy, I retorted, lifting my chin defiantly. Just as I was about to turn away, Cheryl's mother materialized, leading a small parade of eligible bachelors in our direction. Cheryl raised her eyebrows, a silent, resigned look of here we go again. Well, she was my best friend. Time to stand shoulder to shoulder and face the matchmaking storm together. Those snide comments from earlier? Temporarily shelved. We'd settle that score later. Cheryl's birthday party was an experience. By the end of the evening, my face was practically frozen from forced smiles. Those eligible bachelors, even knowing I was married, still insisted on adding me on WeChat. Ugh, the audacity. On the way home, I called Gareth, suggesting we grab dinner. It was the weekend after all, and we'd planned a romantic date, only for me to ditch him for Cheryl's party. But the call went straight to voicemail. I tried again, and again. 3 unanswered calls in a row. A knot of unease began to tighten in my stomach. It wasn't until I got home that I realized something serious was wrong. Water was cascading from the ceiling, transforming our apartment into an indoor waterfall. Husband, what are you doing? I stared in disbelief at Gareth, who was hauling stacks of paper Files? From the spare bedroom, piling them in the living room. Where did all this stuff come from? Gareth was unemployed, wasn't he? What need did he have for piles of documents? Found them downstairs this afternoon, someone was throwing them out, Gareth explained, loading the papers into a large cardboard box, sealing it shut, and then nudging it under the dining table with his foot. Thought I'd sell them for recycling. I didn't think too much of it. He'd been at home for over a year, selling recyclables to supplement our income. It wasn't entirely unbelievable. Still, a pang of guilt twisted in my heart. Husband, you're suffering, I murmured, bowing inwardly. For him, I will earn mountains of money. Gareth looked at me, a soft smile gracing his lips, his fox-like eyes crinkling at the corners, a hint of something deeper, almost melancholic in their depths. Wife, look at this mess. Maybe we should think about moving? I stared at him, momentarily blank. Did he even realize how exorbitant rent was in this city? Moving was not exactly a casual decision. A good friend of mine, he has an apartment that's been vacant for ages. He keeps telling me, if I ever need it, just move right in. Good location, close to your office too. Gareth continued, watching my reaction intently. My mind, however, was fixated on one detail, a rich friend. Who is this friend? Why haven't you mentioned him before? Have I met him? Just a friend, you probably haven't met him, he said vaguely, brushing off the question. Husband, are you unhappy here? Do you think this place is too small, too shabby? I asked tentatively, a pang of insecurity hitting me. I still wasn't capable of providing him with the life of comfort he deserved. Oh, Vivian, you're being silly, I scolded myself. Nonsense. This is our home, isn't it? I'm perfectly happy here, cozy as can be, Gareth said firmly, pulling me into a tight embrace, his voice deliberately louder, more emphatic. His reassurance eased my worries, somewhat. I just think moving is a big deal. Home is home, no matter how humble. We might be a bit tight on cash right now, but if I work hard and you manage the household frugally, things will get better. We'll get there. Let's not trouble your friend, or incur any favors, I said earnestly, laying out my practical, if slightly impoverished, life plan. Sensing my underlying anxieties, Gareth quickly shifted gears. You're right. I already spoke to the upstairs neighbor, a tenant who deals with seafood. I'll talk to the building management again tomorrow. Good, make sure they redo the waterproofing properly, and they need to compensate us for the water damage. I emphasized, my inner homeowner asserting itself. Understood, leave it to your husband. I nodded, satisfied. At least the leak was contained to the living room and kitchen. Otherwise, we'd be homeless tonight. Later that night, as Gareth held me close in bed, sleep eluded me. In the dim light of my phone screen, I gazed at his peaceful sleeping face, so serene, so beautiful. Such a wonderful man, living in a leaky apartment, enduring hardship with me. Sigh. I had to earn more. I needed to make enough money to move us into a better place, a proper home for him. Fueled by this new motivation, I transformed into a workaholic machine, single-mindedly focused on climbing the corporate ladder and raking in the cash. The next morning, Gareth's signature gentle, tender wake-up call roused me from sleep. Sweet wife, time to wake up, he murmured, his voice soft and honeyed, pressing a tender kiss to my lips, his long fingers gently massaging my temples. 5 more minutes. My eyelids felt glued shut. Lately, to finalize that major project, our team had been working insane hours for 2 solid weeks, bordering on burnout. No sleeping in, sleepyhead. You'll miss your flight. My eyes snapped open, jolting upright in bed. Oh, damn it, the business trip. How could I forget? A flurry of activity ensued, rushing to the bathroom, washing, dressing, a whirlwind of actions leaving no time for breakfast. Oh no. I haven't even packed my suitcase. Gareth, still in his bathrobe and bunny slippers, pointed towards a pink suitcase neatly placed by the door. All done, packed yesterday. Just a 3-day trip, so I didn't pack too much. The weather's been unpredictable lately, so I put some cold medicine in the middle compartment, just in case. Husband, you're the best. I rushed over to hug him, my heart overflowing with warmth. Such an amazing husband, irreplaceable, priceless. Seeing you work so hard, it breaks my heart, you know. Actually, I knew what was coming. He was going to suggest I quit my job again. I quickly cut him off. Time's running out, I have to go. Be good at home, wait for me to come back. I leaned in, pressing a quick kiss to his lips. Gareth smiled, a radiant, sun-drenched smile that melted away any lingering morning grogginess. Wife, you forgot something. What? He magically produced a glass of milk from somewhere, gesturing for me to drink it. I obediently downed the milk, turning to leave again. Still forgetting something, he said softly, gently taking my hand. Me? What now? He chuckled, his eyes sparkling with mischief, leaning in to kiss away the milk mustache lingering at the corner of my lips. That tender, lingering kiss infused me with a sudden surge of energy. For him, for our future, bring it on, world. My colleagues for this trip were the team leader and another junior member. Days were packed with meetings and work, evenings filled with obligatory networking dinners. Even more exhausting than staying in the office. Vivian, you don't look too well. If you're not feeling up to it, don't push yourself. Just rest at the hotel tonight, the team leader, a sophisticated middle-aged man known for his impressive alcohol tolerance, said with concern. It's okay, just a bit of a cold. I took some medicine at lunch, feeling a little drowsy, that's all, I replied, forcing a smile. My body ached all over, my head was pounding, and the changing seasons always seemed to trigger my immune system to rebel. Normally, I would have bowed out of the evening's events. But tonight was crucial. After weeks of relentless effort, the contract was finally within reach. No room for mistakes, no room for me to be absent. This quarter's bonus was riding on this. If you really can't handle it, just give me a signal. We'll find a way for you to slip away early, the team leader said kindly, ever the considerate boss. My junior colleague and I smiled gratefully, thanking him, before finalizing the contract details and hailing a cab to the hotel where tonight's dinner was scheduled. The client team had brought 3 representatives, our team leader brought 3 of us. As the drinks flowed, the atmosphere loosened, becoming increasingly convivial. Except for one man on their side, rather refined-looking, gold-rimmed glasses perched on his nose, maintaining a detached air, glancing at me intermittently. Fortunately, everything proceeded smoothly. The clients had no major objections to the contract terms, and the conversation flowed easily. As the drinks loosened tongues and inhibitions, the decision was made, the contract would be signed tonight itself. Our collective efforts had finally paid off. Worth it. My headache was intensifying, throbbing behind my eyes. I discreetly messaged the team leader, then excused myself to the restroom, using it as a convenient escape route back to the hotel. Barely had I stepped out of the restaurant when the man who'd been subtly watching me throughout dinner materialized behind me. You're Vivian, right? The man asked. I nodded, instinctively clutching my handbag tighter. Inside was Gareth's thoughtful self-defense gift, a can of pepper spray, or rather, chili water. Extra spicy. Guaranteed to make you forget your own mother. Don't worry, don't be alarmed. We've met before, don't you remember? The man said, offering a somewhat awkward smile. At Cheryl's birthday party, he prompted, as if reading my blank expression. Ah, right. That party. One of the many eligible bachelors from the matchmaking extravaganza. Right, yes, I remember now. Coincidence, you're here on business too? Well, I'm heading back to the hotel, nice to see you again. I offered a polite, perfunctory greeting, eager to escape and collapse in my hotel room. Let me walk you back, the man offered, stepping in front of me, a slightly embarrassed explanation following. Truth is, I'm not much of a drinker, I can't really stand those kinds of social events. Turns out, he was also making a hasty retreat. Fellow escapees, nothing more. I didn't refuse his company. The man, Lu Jishuan, hailed a taxi, and without asking, he slid into the seat beside me. A slight wave of discomfort washed over me, an instinctive aversion. I subtly shifted away, moving closer to the door. My headache was worsening by the second. The taxi soon pulled up at my hotel. I opened the door, ready to bolt. Want me to see you to your room? Lu Jishuan followed me out, grabbing my arm a little too forcefully. I shook off his hand. Ugh, all that pretense of politeness, turns out he's just another creep. Shouldn't have agreed to share a cab with him in the first place. No need, Mr. Lu, I said, my voice firm, warning him to keep his distance. Lu Jishuan, rebuffed, merely chuckled. Oh, come on, don't play coy. I've seen this act a million times. But you are quite attractive, might be worth a little fun. Are you out of your mind? I tried to move past him, but he blocked my path. Working so hard, supporting your husband, right? Lu Jishuan sneered, his tone laced with mockery. His condescending tone ignited a spark of anger within me. My family affairs are none of your business. Don't get your panties in a twist. I'm just trying to offer you a lucrative opportunity. Play your cards right, and I might even find your husband a job. How about that? He reached out, his fingers reaching towards my face. Get lost. I dodged his hand, aiming a swift kick at his shin. He cursed, grabbing my arm, twisting it painfully behind my back. Joke's on you, buddy. I can handle a husband, I can definitely handle a lowlife like you. Without hesitation, I lowered my head and bit down hard on his wrist. He yelped in pain, a strangled cry escaping his lips. I seized the opportunity and bolted. Lu Jishuan, the scoundrel, was hot on my heels, chasing after me, spewing insults about my husband as he ran. High heels were a serious disadvantage in a chase like this. I was quickly losing breath, struggling to maintain my pace. He was gaining on me, his vile words ringing in my ears, fueling my rage. No one insults my husband. I abruptly stopped, whirling around, chili spray in hand, aiming directly at Lu Jishuan's smirking face. Pshhhht. A blood-curdling scream ripped through the air as he crumpled to the ground. The chili spray was potent, excruciatingly so. Tears streamed down my face, my nose ran uncontrollably, but I stood my ground, raining down furious kicks on his writhing form. Keep talking trash about my husband now, asshole. You deserve this, and more. And just like that, I ended up in the police station. A passerby, witnessing the altercation, had called the police, reporting a brawl. I cooperated fully, explaining the entire sequence of events. I'd naively assumed that would be the end of it, a minor hiccup, but it turned out I'd inadvertently ignited a major catastrophe. My team leader arrived, looking utterly distraught. I had no idea that jerk was the client's brother-in-law. Now you've roughed him up like this, the client is threatening to pull out of the deal. How are we going to explain this back at headquarters? Team leader, don't worry yourself sick, I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. I'll take full responsibility. My job was definitely toast. I'd been dreaming of earning more, improving our life, and now just avoiding crippling compensation claims would be a blessing. That guy's hired a lawyer, she continued, her voice heavy with worry. Apparently, he's determined to press charges, make sure you're locked up. Vivian, you need to find someone to help you, and fast. My heart plummeted, a sickening thud in my chest. Who could possibly help me? Worse still, a peculiar stubbornness took root within me. I didn't want Gareth to know about this. The exact reason for this reluctance was a tangled mess I couldn't immediately unravel. My only hope was Cheryl. I endured a sleepless night, feeling utterly drained. Finally, Cheryl arrived, and trailing behind her, to my complete shock, was Gareth. He looked like he'd rushed straight out of bed, still in his cotton bathrobe, blue bunny slippers on his feet, slippers adorably mismatched, worn on the wrong feet. A truly disheveled sight. But his expression was starkly different from his usual playful demeanor. He radiated an aura of icy intensity, a silent warning to anyone who dared approach. Instantly, my carefully constructed composure crumbled. Tears welled up, and I instinctively lowered my head, like a scolded child, desperate to hide my pathetic state from him. This is it, I thought miserably. This might be goodbye. If he chose to walk away, I wouldn't blame him. Wife. Gareth's long legs carried him across the room, and in a heartbeat, his strong arms enveloped me in a familiar embrace. That familiar scent, that comforting warmth. The moment I relaxed into his arms, my weary body finally surrendered. Darkness swam at the edges of my vision, and I fainted. In the hazy edges of consciousness, I registered Gareth's voice, a furious roar that seemed to shake the very foundations of the station. Tell that Lou bastard to prepare to be locked up and rot in jail. When I finally regained consciousness, I was in a hospital bed. The first face to swim into focus was Gareth's, his usually vibrant features etched with worry. Wife, you scared me half to death. Do you even realize you had a fever? Taking cold medicine and then drinking? Are you trying to kill yourself? He grasped my hand tightly, his eyes red-rimmed, his voice thick with emotion. My lower lip trembled, a childish pout forming. He clearly couldn't bring himself to scold me further. Are you hungry? Let me feed you something. He sighed, a soft, relenting sound, carefully helping me sit up, offering me a bowl of fragrant chicken congee. After a few spoonfuls, the warm, savory broth slid down my throat, settling in my stomach, a gentle warmth spreading through my chilled body. Just then, the hospital room door opened, and Supervisor Ning entered. I instinctively clutched Gareth's hand, my body stiffening. Supervisor Ning must be here to deliver the final blow, the termination notice, the demand for compensation for the company's losses. We were about to be buried under a mountain of debt. Mr. Gong, they've been waiting all night. Shall I let them in now? Supervisor Ning asked, her tone deferential, almost respectful. I was utterly, completely bewildered. Mr. Gong? Was she talking about Gareth? Let them in, Gareth replied, his voice suddenly cold, authoritative, each word clipped and commanding. In just 3 words, he exuded an unexpected, formidable power. The door swung open, and a procession of people filed into the room. Leading the pack was the CEO of the client company, followed by the very same men I'd seen at the dinner, the ones who had previously acted so aloof and important. Now, they were all meek and subdued, like scolded kittens. Mr. Gong, Mrs. Gong, the CEO began, bowing slightly, please, we beg your forgiveness. This deal, we will sign the contract immediately. I have already issued a public statement, severing all ties with that animal. That kind of scum deserves to be in prison, punished to the full extent of the law. With a flourish, he produced a tablet, initiating a video call. On screen, a grotesque image of Lu Jishuan appeared, his eyes swollen shut, like bruised peaches, his face a patchwork of purple and blue. He was clinging to the bars of a holding cell, wailing and sobbing, a truly pathetic sight. Did I really do that much damage? I wondered, a flicker of surprise. Those kicks must have landed squarely on his face. Still, the entitled creep deserved every ounce of pain. Gareth waved a dismissive hand, and the entourage of executives bowed again, retreating as quickly and silently as they'd arrived. He turned to me, his expression softening, his voice gentle. Wife, it's okay now. It's all over. In that moment, my mind raced, connecting the dots, piecing together the scattered fragments of the past year. The consistently extravagant home-cooked meals, my lecherous boss's sudden dismissal, the piles of documents Gareth had been recycling, his constant, thwarted attempts to explain himself, even his slightly exasperated expression every time I jokingly offered to support him. All the pieces clicked into place, forming a clear, undeniable picture. How blind could I have been? He was Gareth Gong. The Gareth Gong, the one whose face graced the financial magazines. Get out! I hissed, yanking the blanket over my head, burying myself beneath the covers. Vivian, you are officially the biggest idiot on the planet. According to Cheryl, I was throwing a childish tantrum. After being discharged from the hospital, I'd moved straight into Cheryl's spare room, launching a full-scale silent treatment campaign. Gareth's calls went unanswered, his messages unread. Nuclear-level Cold War. How do you think he's seen me this whole year? I asked Cheryl, wallowing in self-pity. Stop the melodramatics and go home already. He's Gareth Gong, Vivian. There are women out there practically stripping naked to get his attention. Go back. And stake your claim before someone else does, Cheryl retorted, throwing a throw pillow at me. I didn't even flinch, it bounced harmlessly off my head. You weren't saying that before, I mumbled back. For goodness sake, before, who knew your kept man would turn out to be the Gareth Gong? There are tons of people with the same name, but how many of them are actually the Gareth Gong, the business prodigy? I remembered those magazine covers, the vague sense of recognition, even asking him about it, only for him to brush it off with a dismissive, lookalikes are everywhere. Idiot, I berated myself. How could I have been so dense? He must think I'm the biggest fool, I groaned, burying my face in the pillow, the memory of my confident declarations of supporting him now a source of excruciating embarrassment. Don't beat yourself up so much. You have your merits too, Cheryl offered, trying for a more comforting tone. Oh yeah? Like what? Well, you're chesty and clueless, and your bedroom skills, are enthusiastic? I grabbed a pillow and launched it at her, tackling her onto the bed. Why me? What have I done to deserve this level of romantic chaos? Despite the emotional turmoil, life, inevitably, went on. My dramatic escape to Cheryl's didn't stop me from going to work. The company acquisition was officially confirmed, personnel remained unchanged, and the new boss had brought in a wave of projects, the combined value eclipsing our previous 3 years' worth of business. My personal drama with Gareth remained a closely guarded secret. Supervisor Ning, bless her discretion, hadn't breathed a word. I spent the entire day in a haze of anxiety, finally clocking out at the end of the day, feeling utterly drained. Vivian, are you feeling better? I heard you were sick, a colleague asked, packing up her things to leave. I nodded, exchanging a few polite words. Not like you to be dragging your feet like this. You're usually the first one out the door. Is your husband not home? She teased, nudging me playfully. Home? He was Gareth Gong now, wealthy, powerful. What would he want with my humble, cramped apartment? I was starting to understand less and less why he'd married me in the first place. Perhaps sensing my downcast mood, my colleague made an excuse and left. Bag in hand, I trudged slowly towards the door, swiping my card at the time clock. Home. The word felt heavy, loaded with complex emotions. I was almost afraid to go back. Afraid of finding Gareth there, and equally afraid of finding the apartment empty. Another rush-hour commute later, I finally reached our old, dilapidated apartment building. An unusual silence enveloped the entire building. No elevator in this aging building, and usually, you could hear the echoes of daily life from every floor as you climbed the stairs. Normally, around this time, the west-facing apartment on the first floor would be hosting a child-rearing tantrum. The east-facing apartment on the second floor would be the soundtrack to a marital squabble. The aspiring musician on the third floor would be conducting a percussion concert with pots and pans, and the seafood vendor upstairs would be orchestrating a symphony of crates being loaded and unloaded. But today, utter stillness. I even stepped back outside, double-checking the building number, wondering if I'd somehow wandered to the wrong place. Key in hand, I unlocked the door. A warm, welcoming glow spilled out from within. Gareth, still in that worn cotton bathrobe, still sporting the blue bunny slippers, his matching pair to mine. Wife, you're finally home. His voice was thick with emotion, the corners of his eyes red-rimmed, pleading, hopeful. It had been a week since I'd last been home, a week spent camped out at Cheryl's. He'd come to find me, only to be chased away by Cheryl's withering glares and pointed pronouncements. Now, standing here, I was at a loss for words. Utterly, excruciatingly awkward. He broke the silence first, his voice almost pleading. Wife, I bought the entire building. He gestured around vaguely. Now we can waterproof it properly, however we want. And the building management was less than efficient, so I replaced them. Wife. He reached out, his hand hovering towards mine, but I flinched back, recoiling as it burned. Awkward. So awkward. Wife, I'm sorry. I never meant to deceive you. Gareth's expression was heartbreakingly contrite, like a delicate flower wilting in the wind. I managed a bitter laugh. You really didn't need to do all this. You don't need to wear those discount clothes I bought, you don't need to live in this rundown apartment, to go through all these elaborate charades. We're clearly not a match. I avoided his gaze, a sharp ache twisting in my chest, but refusing to yield, to back down. Let's get divorced. Gareth's brow furrowed, his eyes widening in disbelief. Why? Fraudulent marriage. Is that reason enough? Yes, that's it. That's the reason. He'd exploited my sympathy, my affection, waltzed into my heart, into my home. Played me for a fool. I'd loved him, the person I thought he was, wholeheartedly, only to realize I had no idea who he truly was, or what he truly felt. Call it pride, call it stubbornness, call it self-destruction, it all started with his deception. Those hardship days we'd shared, he must have been secretly laughing at me, at my utter gullibility. Wife, from the very beginning, I never intended to deceive you. I wanted to explain, but you always cut me off. Gareth's voice was urgent now, grabbing my shoulders, pleading his case. Oh, so it's my fault now? Technically, yes, I had interrupted him, repeatedly. But still. Is that an excuse? Those are just excuses. I retorted, pulling away. Wife, are you really giving up on me? Gareth's handsome face was tight, strained, like a wounded animal. I can't afford you, I snapped, wrenching myself free. Too expensive. Way out of my league. Know your limits, Vivian. You don't want my 8-pack abs either? He asked, almost desperate, lifting his shirt slightly, flashing those sculpted muscles, that weapon of mass seduction. I hesitated. Just for a millisecond, I swore to myself. Probably less. Wife. Gareth, emboldened, pulled his shirt off completely, then, with another swift movement, his pants followed. Oh God, he's resorting to seduction. Gareth. I'm warning you, don't you dare try anything. I made a last-ditch effort to maintain my resolve, to intimidate him with sheer force of will. He pounced, knocking over a small side table in his haste, seemingly oblivious to the potential noise complaints from downstairs neighbors. Not that there were any downstairs neighbors now, not in our building. Vivian, say it. Call me husband. Desperate, I fumbled in my bag, pulling out the chili spray. Call your grandpa. Amidst Gareth's howl of pain and indignation, I fled. The next day, I arrived at work sporting impressive dark circles under my eyes. Vivian, have you heard? Our new boss is coming to the office today. And I heard he's a total hottie. I mumbled a non-committal response. Yeah, whatever. Let the King of England himself show up, I couldn't care less. Famous last words, as they say. When Gareth Gong, impeccably dressed in a tailored black suit, finally made his entrance, the office erupted. Whoa, great physique. Damn, those legs go on forever. Seriously, he must be at least 6'1". Why can't we see his face, Vivian? Deja vu. This was getting old. Maybe he's wearing sunglasses to look cool? I offered weakly. More likely, he was wearing sunglasses to hide the swelling from industrial-strength chili spray. The fact that he was even here, functioning at all, was a minor miracle. I knew, even behind those dark lenses, he was watching me, his gaze intense, unwavering. I retreated to my workstation, resolutely ignoring him. Gareth, surrounded by a phalanx of company executives, disappeared into the meeting room, and I finally exhaled, a shaky breath of relief. The break room, predictably, became the epicenter of office gossip, buzzing with speculation about the new boss. The table was laden with fruit, including those wild berries Gareth had claimed to have picked by the roadside. A particularly knowledgeable colleague identified them as imported European red currants. I picked one up, popped it in my mouth. Bland. Utterly tasteless. I heard from a friend that Gareth Gong is secretly married, someone whispered, dropping a bombshell into the breakroom chatter. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Such a catch, and already snagged. Who's the lucky woman? Some lucky pig, someone else muttered jealously. I couldn't suppress a sneeze. Great. Perfect timing. My friend also said that Gareth Gong actually didn't want to get married at all, it was all for inheritance reasons. I tuned out the rest of the conversation. Inheritance. That explained it. Marrying someone as ordinary as me for inheritance? It was both cruel and ridiculously cliché. But it made a twisted kind of sense. As I left work, the heavens opened. Thunder rumbled, and rain poured down in sheets. I walked out into the downpour without an umbrella. Calm down, Vivian. You need to calm down. My head was a chaotic mess. Only copious amounts of alcohol could possibly soothe this inner turmoil. Cheryl found me at a dimly lit bar, already halfway to oblivion. The ultimate busybody. Not only had she shown up herself, but she'd also, predictably, alerted Gareth. Wife, why are you drinking so much? Let's go home. He reached out to help me up, but I swung around, a resounding slap connecting with his face, knocking his sunglasses flying. Cheryl couldn't help it, a snort of laughter escaped her lips. Around us, other bar patrons stifled their own amusement, discreetly averting their eyes. Gareth, with his swollen, crimson-rimmed eyes, did look rather comical. He must be regretting ever giving me that chili spray. But my own misery outweighed any amusement. You big liar. I accused, my voice thick with tears and alcohol. Gareth nodded, frantically. Yes, I'm a liar, I'm a liar. Let's just go home, okay? Why? Why did you pretend to be broken, Sonia? Let me get beat up for you when you dined and dashed. Why did you act poor on our dates, never paying for anything? Why did you wear discount clothes, live in a rundown apartment? Why? I clutched at his ridiculously expensive suit jacket, shaking him. Tears streamed down my face, a torrent of hurt and confusion. Gareth's lips trembled, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. Wife. Don't call me wife. I'm not your wife. Was it all just a game to you? Playing at being poor, was that your idea of fun? What I couldn't reconcile, what truly stung, was the deception. The flawless, elaborate lie, so expertly crafted that I'd fallen for it completely, willingly playing the role of his sugar mama. But he was Gareth Gong. I couldn't afford him. Why did you marry me? Why? That was the core question, the burning, unanswered ache. Had my love been nothing more than a joke? Was I just a means to an inheritance? My love, so freely given, now felt worthless, a cruel punchline. He started to explain, but I clapped my hands over my ears, cutting him off. Don't say anything. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. When he fell silent, I suddenly demanded, say it. Explain yourself. He opened his mouth, and I immediately descended into histrionics again. No, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. After several rounds of this emotional ping-pong, even Cheryl reached her breaking point. Rolling her eyes, she physically hauled me off Gareth. Are you going to listen or not? And you, dog Gareth, she says she doesn't want to listen, but are you just going to stand there and say nothing? Hurry up and explain already, you're driving me crazy. Gareth fixed his swollen, bloodshot eyes on me, his gaze intense, unwavering. Time seemed to still, the world narrowing to just the two of us. My heart hammered in my chest, even faster than that mortifying, can we do, friends moment. Wife, I. Thump. The bar door burst open, and a group of plainclothes police officers strode in. Police. Routine inspection, please cooperate. And just like that, we all ended up back at the police station. After all the commotion, the alcohol haze began to dissipate, leaving me more or less sober. Apparently, it was a special anti-vice operation, and our bar visit had been unfortunate timing. My first time in a police station. A little nerve-wracking, to say the least. Gareth held my hand, his grip reassuring, unwavering. The young officer taking our statements, trying to lighten the mood, said, "Don't worry, we're all one big family here, police and citizens. Once we finish the formalities, you'll be free to go home." Gareth and I simultaneously turned to look across the room. A plainclothes officer and a woman in a ridiculously short skirt were engaged in a rather passionate kiss. Wow, they're really going for it, I murmured, surprised. Even the police station was a breeding ground for romance. Love was truly everywhere. The young officer cleared his throat, pointedly, and went back to processing our paperwork. Wife, Gareth leaned closer, his voice soft, pleading. I rolled my eyes, silently telling him to keep his distance. He fell silent, his shoulders slumping slightly. Then, out of nowhere, Gareth abruptly stood up, drawing the attention of everyone in the station. Wife, he announced, his voice ringing clear and loud, I'm going to say this clearly, right here, right now. Oh God, public humiliation alert. I frantically gestured for him to sit down, mortified. This was beyond embarrassing. But he ignored my frantic signals, continuing his pronouncement in a voice that echoed through the room. I know I messed up, I shouldn't have kept things from you. From the moment you rescued me in Sanya, I couldn't get you out of my head. Even if you hadn't reached out, I would have found a way to see you again. I love seeing you. Smile, I love when you say you'll support me. No one has ever been so open, so generous with me. I wanted to give you the best of everything, to let you live the life you deserve, but I didn't know how to explain myself. I was afraid of scaring you away, your pride is so fragile, so easily bruised. As for why I married you, there's only one reason. I, Gareth Gong, am not someone who can be controlled or manipulated. I wouldn't do anything, for anyone, that went against my heart. I love you, Gu Vivian. What spell did you cast on me? I willingly moved my office into a tiny spare bedroom, happily playing the role of a stay-at-home husband in your little domestic drama. I stared at him, speechless, my mind blank. So, in his eyes, I wasn't a clueless idiot after all? That crushing weight of self-pity instantly evaporated, replaced by a rush of giddy happiness. He loves me too. Someone, somewhere, shouted bravo. And then, as if on cue, applause erupted, rippling through the police station. Completely overwhelmed, I buried my face in Gareth's chest, tears streaming down my face. Utterly, mortifyingly embarrassing. But beneath the wave of embarrassment, a sweet, exhilarating sense of relief washed over me, the joy of something lost, miraculously found again. A couple of young officers muttered to each other nearby. Is our station turning into a matchmaking agency now? Looks like it. Bet we'll get a relationship mender, People's Police Station banner any day now. Reconciled with Gareth, we finally tackled the one remaining formality, meeting my parents. My parents lived in a small town, enjoying a peaceful retirement. I hadn't told them about my marriage, mainly because the stay-at-home husband concept felt a little avant-garde for their traditional sensibilities. I wasn't sure they'd quite grasp it. Gareth, determined to make a good impression, packed the car with an absurd amount of gifts. You're the Gareth Gong. My mother recognized him first, her jaw dropping in stunned disbelief. Even I was surprised. Gareth's fame apparently extended to the senior citizen demographic. My father, observing the scene with his usual dry wit, explained, "Your mother used to be an accountant. She reads financial magazines in her spare time." "Oh my God, are you all right, Mom?" Suddenly, my mother's eyes rolled back, and she fainted, collapsing dramatically into Gareth's arms. My father just shook his head, rolling his eyes. Humph, her old habit acting up again. Always swooning over handsome men. Ah, so my susceptibility to beauty was hereditary. All right, mother of my children, get up and make dinner. If you keep fainting, your son-in-law will starve and run away. My mother promptly revived, bustling off to the kitchen, muttering excitedly. Gareth, after a year of domestic culinary experience, instinctively followed, offering to help his mother-in-law. My father, settling into a chair under the rose bushes in the courtyard, poured me a cup of freshly brewed green tea. Not bad, he commented, taking a sip. Me? What's not bad supposed to mean? The young man. He seems decent. My father and I exchanged a knowing smile. A gentle breeze rustled the rose bushes, the red roses blooming in vibrant profusion. When are you planning the wedding? My father asked. National Day holiday, Gareth's voice floated from the kitchen window. He was determined to give me the wedding of my dreams. Our wedding might be belated, but our love had never been lacking. If you blossom, the breeze will come. Vivian, are you happy? I turned, gazing towards the kitchen window, watching Gareth moving around, his familiar silhouette framed against the warm light. It reminded me of all those evenings, coming home to his welcoming smile. No matter how wealthy he was, no matter how powerful, what mattered most was that his heart was with me, that his smile was genuine, his love sincere. Yes, I whispered, a soft smile gracing my lips. I'm very happy. If I blossom, Gareth will come.